Did you know Miyamoto Musashi fought his very first duel at just 13 years old, and still emerged victorious? In How to Think Like a Samurai, Miyamoto Musashi's strategy for modern success will reveal the time-tested mindset that allowed him to remain undefeated in over 60 challenges, and show you how to apply it to your career, personal life, and everyday decisions. Stay with me to the end, because once you discover the inner discipline, razor-sharp focus, and unshakable confidence that defined Musashi's life, you'll have a powerful blueprint for achieving your own modern-day victories. Number 1. Cultivate a mindset of discipline and focus. When we talk about cultivating a mindset of discipline and focus, it's about more than just doing the work. It's about the way you approach everything. It's an art, a lifestyle, something deeply rooted in your day-to-day habits. And to truly get it, we have to look at how Musashi, the great samurai strategist, lived his life. Musashi didn't just swing his sword, he mastered his own mind, and that's exactly what you can do to set yourself apart. Think about this. Discipline isn't just about resisting temptation or sticking to a routine, it's about clarity. You get clear on what truly matters to you, and you start eliminating distractions. Imagine being so locked in on a task that the world around you could be crumbling, and you wouldn't even notice. That's focus at its finest, and it's something Musashi nailed down in his own way. The first thing to understand is that discipline is freedom. It's easy to see discipline as a prison, a set of rules that tie you down. But in reality, it's the exact opposite. When you choose to be disciplined, you're choosing to take control. It's not about following some rigid structure, it's about creating an environment where your best self can emerge. Musashi wasn't just fighting in battle, he was constantly fighting distractions. Whether it was the noise of life or the inner turmoil of self-doubt, he knew how to silence it all and stay locked into the present moment. Now, focus. That's where things get interesting. Musashi wasn't just laser-focused in battle. His focus was an all-encompassing force. He focused on his training, his strategy, his mindset, and yes, even his sword. That focus extended into everything he did. It wasn't about being constantly busy, but rather being ruthlessly efficient in how he used his energy. In our world, that's something we can learn from. Being busy is easy. The real challenge is to know what's worth your focus. What's interesting is that focus and discipline go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. It's like trying to fight with a broken sword. Focus without discipline is chaos. Discipline without focus is pointless. You need both to carve your path. Musashi would spend days, months, years honing his skills, not because he was forced to, but because he knew the value of consistently sharpening his mind and body. His discipline allowed him to stay focused on the things that truly moved him forward. In modern times, it's easy to get caught in the trap of multitasking. Our phones buzz constantly, there's a never-ending stream of content demanding our attention, and everyone has an opinion on what we should be doing. But if we truly want to think like a samurai, we need to practice the art of saying no. Saying no to distractions. Saying no to mindless scrolling. Saying no to anything that doesn't serve your purpose. Musashi wasn't swayed by the noise around him. He had a singular focus, becoming the best. He didn't waste time on things that didn't matter. And here's the kicker, focus doesn't mean working harder, it means working smarter. It's about aligning your efforts with your deeper intentions. Musashi understood that training the body is important, but training the mind is even more critical. Focus isn't about forcing yourself to grind endlessly, it's about being present, engaged, and intentional in whatever you do. It's the art of moving with purpose, each step calculated and meaningful. When you make focus and discipline part of your mindset, something shifts. You stop looking for shortcuts and start embracing the process. You start seeing setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to refine your skills. Musashi's success wasn't built on talent or luck, It was built on his unwavering commitment to discipline and his sharp, strategic focus. So, how do you develop this mindset? Start small. Set clear intentions. Break down your tasks, eliminate distractions, and challenge yourself to be fully present. And over time, like Musashi, you'll begin to see the world not as a place full of obstacles, but as a space where you can channel your inner strength and focus. Discipline and focus will become second nature. And just like the samurai, you'll find that nothing can stand in your way when you're in the zone. Number 2, embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. One of the core teachings that has survived centuries, passed down through warriors, scholars, and business leaders, is that challenges are not obstacles to be avoided but stepping stones to something greater. This mindset is at the heart of what it means to think like a samurai, and it's not just a strategy for ancient warriors, it's the key to thriving in the modern world. Think about it, when we encounter difficulties, the immediate instinct might be to dodge them, find the easiest way out, or even panic. But what if we could flip that? What if instead of seeing a challenge as something to fear, we could see it as an invitation? An opportunity not just to survive, but to grow, evolve, and sharpen our skills in ways we couldn't have anticipated. The samurai knew this instinctively. Their way of life was built on constant challenges, whether it was combat, strategy, or discipline. But they didn't just face these challenges head-on because they had no choice, they saw them as the very thing that refined their abilities. In fact, the samurai philosophy of the way of the warrior teaches us that personal growth is forged through adversity. A warrior who never faced a challenge would have no chance to grow stronger, wiser, or more resilient. And here's the twist, in our modern lives, it's often the hardest moments that push us into new territory. The moments that force us to stretch beyond our comfort zones are where the magic happens. Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed by something you didn't think you could handle. But then, somehow, you did it. You pushed through, maybe not perfectly, but you emerged from the other side changed. Those moments? They're the equivalent of sharpening your blade in the forge. Without them, we stay dull. Challenges don't just test us, they reveal what we're made of. They expose our weaknesses, yes, but they also highlight our strengths. This is why it's so important to embrace them, to see them as an opportunity to not just survive, but to thrive. Every tough situation you face is like a mirror, reflecting parts of yourself that you might not have known were there. They show you what needs work and what is already strong. It's tempting to run away from discomfort. We live in a world that's designed for ease, instant gratification, convenience at our fingertips. But this ease often comes at the cost of growth. We need the challenge, the friction. Without it, we risk stagnation, and stagnation is the enemy of progress. By running toward challenges, we build endurance, resilience, and mental clarity. These are the very tools that keep us moving forward, no matter how tough the road gets. A samurai wouldn't retreat in the face of a storm, right? No, they would face it with resolve, knowing that the storm itself would shape them into someone stronger. This is the exact mentality that modern success demands. Whether you're building a career, pursuing a passion, or overcoming personal hurdles, the road will never be smooth. But it's through navigating these rough patches that we find the gold, the growth that can only be mined from real struggle. And here's the real kicker, once you start seeing challenges as growth opportunities, you'll find yourself not just surviving them, but even seeking them out. You'll begin to see each new obstacle as a test of your ability to adapt and evolve. And over time, this mindset becomes part of your DNA. It doesn't matter what life throws at you anymore because you know it's an opportunity to become more than you were yesterday. So, next time you're faced with something difficult, don't run. Don't shy away. Embrace it. Dive in. Look for what it can teach you. Take a page out of the samurai's book, face your challenges head-on, sharpen your mind, and come out on the other side more resilient, more capable, and more ready to conquer the next challenge that awaits. After all, growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from the grind. Number 3, think strategically and plan ahead. Alright, let's dive into how thinking strategically and planning ahead is a game changer when it comes to success, especially if we take a page from the legendary Miyamoto Musashi's playbook. Musashi, the famed samurai who lived in a world where life or death could hinge on the smallest decision, knew the value of looking beyond the immediate. The strategy wasn't about reacting to the present moment, it was about seeing the whole picture, considering all possibilities, and then moving with purpose. This mindset doesn't just apply to the battlefield but can transform how we approach everyday challenges in our modern world. Now, think about it. In a world that's so fast-paced and filled with distractions, it's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment. We're often so busy reacting to emails, texts, and the demands of the day that we forget to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. But this is exactly where Musashi's approach shines. He didn't just focus on the current battle. He was thinking about the next step, the next move, and how to get the upper hand long before it was time to strike. It's almost like playing chess, but not just the next move, thinking about moves 5, 6, or 7 ahead. Musashi believed that a samurai needed to plan his actions thoroughly, anticipating both his opponent's moves and the environment around him. This isn't about being paranoid or overthinking, it's about setting a clear intention, knowing what your end goal is, and carving out the steps to get there. Planning ahead isn't just about having a list of tasks to get through. It's about creating a roadmap with milestones that guide you toward your long-term goal, even if that goal isn't immediately clear. For Musashi, his life was a constant battle, but that didn't mean he was constantly reacting. Instead, he was always several steps ahead, crafting his strategy, refining his technique, and adapting to whatever challenges came his way. This doesn't mean you need to have everything figured out in the moment. In fact, some of the greatest breakthroughs happen when we step back, take a deep breath, and give ourselves the mental space to reflect. Musashi knew that while being reactive could save you in the short term, it wouldn't lead to lasting success. What did Musashi do? He stayed disciplined. He trained, yes, but he also spent time reflecting, analyzing, and, most importantly, planning. By doing so, when it was time to act, he wasn't scrambling to think of what to do next, he already knew the best course of action. Here's the thing, strategizing isn't about rigidly sticking to a plan either. It's about knowing the overall direction and then adjusting as life throws unexpected curveballs. The samurai lived with an awareness that things could go wrong at any moment, but they trusted their strategy and instincts enough to adapt and remain focused on the end goal. Planning ahead, in the spirit of Musashi, means being proactive in shaping the future you want. It means thinking about where you want to be 6 months from now, or even a year from now, and breaking that down into smaller steps. You don't have to be perfect, and you certainly don't need all the answers immediately. What matters is that you're making conscious decisions based on the direction you want your life to take. So, next time you feel like you're just treading water, remember that even in the middle of chaos, you can take a step back, reassess, and replan. Like Musashi, who always had his mind on the bigger picture, you can create space to think and act with purpose. Number 4, act with decisiveness and confidence. Acting with decisiveness and confidence isn't just a matter of choosing what to do, it's about knowing why you're doing it. It's about moving through life like you're always on a mission, with a clear sense of purpose and the inner strength to back it up. When we talk about decisiveness and confidence, we're diving into the very core of what it means to think like a samurai. And let me tell you, it's not as easy as snapping your fingers and expecting results. No, this is a mindset, a muscle that needs to be trained over time. Think about it for a second. Decisiveness isn't just about making quick decisions. It's about making decisions that align with who you are and where you want to go. Musashi, in his quest to master the sword, didn't waste time second-guessing himself. He didn't hesitate before every strike. He didn't wonder if he was doing the right thing. He acted. And that's the key here, action. Decisive action comes from a place of clarity, and that clarity only comes when you've fully committed to your purpose. Without that, you're just wandering aimlessly, unsure of which direction to take. But it's not just about being quick. Decisiveness is a deep-rooted trust in your own judgment. It's knowing that, even if you stumble, you will learn and adapt. Confidence doesn't come from always being right. It comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes your way, whether it's success or failure. Musashi didn't wake up one day as a master swordsman, and he didn't get to where he was by simply playing it safe. He trusted his ability to pivot, to act without hesitation, and to deal with the consequences head-on. Here's where we get into the tricky part. Acting with confidence doesn't mean you have to feel confident all the time. Confidence is a byproduct of action. It's something you build as you go, piece by piece. When Musashi stepped onto the battlefield, he wasn't always 100% sure of the outcome. But he knew that hesitation would get him killed. So, he chose to act with the certainty of someone who had already made up his mind. There's something powerful about that kind of mental fortitude. When you can act without constantly questioning your every move, you free yourself to accomplish so much more. And let's talk about fear. We all have it, don't we? The fear of making the wrong decision, the fear of failing, the fear of being judged. Musashi wasn't immune to fear, far from it. But he learned how to move with it, not around it. He understood that fear was simply a natural response to uncertainty. But here's the thing, he didn't let it stop him. In fact, he leaned into it. The samurai mentality isn't about eliminating fear, it's about learning how to make decisions and act, even when fear is hanging around like an unwanted guest. Being decisive means you've trained your mind to bypass the noise of overthinking. It's about being able to see the bigger picture and make a call, even when the immediate details are blurry. Musashi wasn't concerned with every single variable, he trusted that his training, his instincts, and his strategy would see him through. And you can take that same mindset into your daily life. Every time you hesitate, every time you find yourself stuck in the mental loop of what if, you're delaying your progress. That hesitation is a roadblock, a self-imposed limit that's holding you back from taking action. Acting with confidence means owning your decisions. You don't sit around and wait for approval from others. You don't ask for permission. You don't look for external validation. Instead, you stand firm in what you believe and commit to it. And guess what? You don't need to have all the answers. The samurai didn't wait for the perfect moment. They created it by acting in the moment, trusting their preparation, and adapting along the way. So, how can you cultivate this decisiveness and confidence? Start by making small decisions with full commitment. Don't overthink it, just choose and follow through. Over time, you'll start building that inner muscle of confidence, where every decision feels more natural, and your actions start to reflect the certainty you've developed. You'll realize that the more you trust yourself and your choices, the more powerful your decisions will become. Decisiveness and confidence are like the sword of a samurai, sharp, steady, and always ready for action. And once you embrace this mindset, you'll start cutting through obstacles with the same precision. Don't wait for the perfect moment, create it with every decision you make. Because when you act with clarity, decisiveness, and unwavering confidence, there's nothing that can stand in your way. Number 5. Maintain a calm and clear mind under pressure. When the heat is on and everything seems to be spiraling out of control, what do? Panic? Freeze up? Or do you step back, take a deep breath, and find your center? This is exactly where the samurai mindset comes into play. The ability to stay calm and clear-minded when the pressure is cranked up isn't just a nice-to-have trait, it's a fundamental strategy for success. And it's something that Musashi, the legendary swordsman, understood deeply. You see, when you're in the middle of a battle, whether it's a literal fight or a figurative one, emotions can cloud your judgment. The adrenaline kicks in, your heart races, and everything around you starts to feel urgent. It's easy to get swept up in the chaos, to act on impulse, or to get carried away by the situation. But here's the thing, the samurai knew that reacting without thought, in the heat of the moment, leads to mistakes. It's the person who can maintain mental clarity, even in the storm, who comes out on top. Musashi was a master at this. He spent his life honing not just his physical skills but his mental discipline. His mind was his greatest weapon. He understood that, to be truly effective in any conflict, whether it's a sword fight or a high-stakes business decision, you need to detach from the noise and stay grounded in the moment. When the pressure's on, it's easy to start thinking about all the possible outcomes, to let fear or uncertainty pull your focus in 1,000 directions. But when you're calm, you create space to see things clearly. You get a wider view, a deeper perspective. Staying calm under pressure isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending that everything is fine when it's clearly not. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being aware. It's about recognizing when your mind is starting to race, when your body starts to tense up, and choosing to slow down rather than speeding up. Think of it like a moment of clarity in the midst of confusion. When everyone else is losing their heads, you become the one who can think, plan, and act with precision. This is where the concept of stillness in motion comes into play. It's not about freezing up or disengaging when things get tough. It's about moving with purpose, while maintaining an inner calm. The samurai were known for their ability to fight with fluidity, but their movements were always controlled. They weren't just reacting, they were responding with a clear mind, letting their training and instincts take over. It was their mental calm that allowed them to remain effective, no matter how fast or furious the battle. In today's world, the pressure comes at us from all angles: deadlines, expectations, unforeseen challenges, and the ability to stay calm can often feel like an impossible task. But, just like the samurai, you can train yourself to keep your mind steady, no matter the storm. The first step is awareness. Recognize when you're starting to get overwhelmed, when your thoughts are spiraling. Don't let those feelings hijack your ability to think clearly. Next, breathe. It sounds simple, but it works. When you consciously focus on your breath, you're sending a signal to your body that it doesn't need to panic. This pause gives you the space you need to regain your focus and shift your mind back into clarity. It's almost like pressing a reset button. The world doesn't have to be falling apart just because everything is speeding up around you. And then, there's the power of perspective. Musashi was known for his ability to assess the situation without getting tangled up in his emotions. He would step back mentally, detach himself from the chaos, and see the bigger picture. That's what staying calm under pressure allows you to do. It helps you zoom out and make decisions from a place of wisdom, not fear. In our own lives, we face moments where the pressure feels unbearable, where every decision feels crucial, and we're stuck in that frantic, overwhelmed state. But when you cultivate a calm, clear mind, you become the eye of the storm. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding with a sense of purpose, even when the world around you seems unpredictable. It's not about being invincible or never feeling the weight of stress. It's about knowing that you have the tools to maintain your composure, to stay grounded, and to find clarity when things get intense. When you think like a samurai, you trust your mind and your training. You understand that your calmness is the most powerful tool you have. In a world full of noise, staying centered is your greatest advantage. Number 6, learn from your failures and adjust accordingly. Alright, let's talk about failure. It's a tough pill to swallow, right? But what if I told you that failure could be your best friend? That's exactly what Miyamoto Musashi understood. To him, failure wasn't something to avoid or fear, it was an opportunity to grow, to adapt, and to sharpen his skills. Now, I know this might sound a little odd, but hear me out. We live in a culture that treats failure like a final verdict. You fail, and that's it, game over. But Musashi? He looked at failure as a valuable lesson. A lesson in what not to do, sure, but more importantly, a lesson in how to adjust, refine, and become even better. He saw failure as a teacher, and he wasn't afraid to learn from it. Imagine being in the middle of a fierce battle. You think you have the upper hand, but suddenly things go wrong. Maybe your sword slips, maybe your footing isn't quite right, maybe your strategy isn't working. In that moment, it's easy to panic, to get frustrated, or to just give up. But Musashi didn't let that happen. He'd pause, reassess, and adjust on the fly. His failures were moments of deep reflection, not just quick setbacks. He understood that without failure, there would be no real progress. In today's world, we're always told to strive for perfection, to avoid failure at all costs. But this constant pressure to be flawless can actually hold us back. Why? Because it stops us from taking risks. It stops us from making mistakes that, in the end, are the very things that shape us into stronger, more resilient individuals. Musashi knew this intimately. He wasn't afraid to fail, because he knew that every misstep carried with it the key to unlocking his next level of mastery. Here's the catch though, it's not just about failing. It's about learning from it. Musashi didn't make mistakes and then move on without reflecting. No, he took the time to understand what went wrong and why. What did he miss? What could he have done differently? This is the mindset that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Adjusting accordingly is the next big step. The key isn't to repeat the same mistake over and over again. That's the definition of insanity, right? It's about using failure as feedback. When something doesn't go as planned, take a moment. Look at the situation. Ask yourself some tough questions. How did I approach this? Was my strategy off? Was my timing wrong? Or maybe it was just a case of me not putting in enough effort. Musashi didn't just rely on his previous successes. He learned from every battle, whether he won or lost. He took notes, mentally and physically, and then adjusted his technique. In his world, if you didn't adjust, you lost. If you didn't adapt, you were left behind. So, when you fail, and trust me, you will fail, don't let it be for nothing. Dig deeper. Look for the patterns. See where you went wrong and use that as the fuel to move forward. Now, I get it. It's hard to look at a failure and not feel discouraged, especially when it stings. It's tough not to take it personally. But what Musashi understood, and what we can learn from him, is that failure doesn't define you. It's what you do after the failure that matters. It's your response, your ability to bounce back, and your commitment to adjusting your approach that ultimately makes the difference. Don't let the fear of failure hold you back from trying. Don't let it make you so cautious that you avoid opportunities to grow. Instead, see failure as a stepping stone, as a crucial part of the journey. And when you face setbacks, remember Musashi's mindset. Embrace failure, learn from it, adjust accordingly, and keep moving forward. Because in the end, the samurai didn't just win battles, they mastered themselves. And that's something we can all aim to do, one failure at a time. Number 7, stay adaptable to changing circumstances. Staying adaptable to changing circumstances is one of those skills that seems simple on paper but is actually incredibly difficult in practice. It's about being able to flow with life's unpredictability, like a river winding through a changing landscape. You can't control the current, but you can adjust your course, maintaining your direction and purpose, no matter what comes your way. And this is where the samurai mindset, particularly the approach of Miyamoto Musashi, becomes invaluable. Musashi wasn't just a master of the sword, he was a master of flexibility. If you look at his life, it's full of unexpected twists and turns. Battles didn't always go as planned, circumstances shifted, and new challenges arose, yet he didn't break. He adapted. And that's the essence of what it means to stay adaptable, being able to stay calm, think quickly, and make adjustments in real time without losing sight of your goal. Now, let's talk about the concept of flow. When we think of adaptability, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass or trying to change the winds. It's about learning how to sail in the storm. It's about learning how to use every change to your advantage. The samurai, like Musashi, didn't just stand firm in the face of obstacles. They adjusted their strategy to fit the moment. And that kind of adaptability is a direct result of deep inner calm. When your mind is cluttered, it's hard to see the changes coming. You get stuck on rigid plans, and that's where you falter. But when you've trained yourself to be adaptable, you welcome change with open arms. Adaptability, at its core, is all about perspective. The world doesn't stay the same. One minute, everything could be going smoothly, and the next, you're hit with an unexpected challenge. The key here is to not panic. Musashi's whole philosophy revolved around the idea that change is constant, and instead of resisting it, you use it to your advantage. Every battle he fought was unpredictable, and yet he consistently adjusted his approach to emerge victorious. That's the essence of adaptability, the willingness to adjust without losing your center. But let's dive deeper into the mindset behind adaptability. It's not just about reacting. It's about proactively preparing your mind to shift gears when necessary. It's like learning how to read the signs. Just as Musashi could read his opponent's movements, you need to learn how to read your environment. It's about being present, being aware of subtle shifts, and acting swiftly when those shifts happen. Adaptability isn't passive. It's an active, ongoing process of fine-tuning your strategy to the situation at hand. And here's a crucial part: adaptability doesn't mean giving up your principles. It's about finding creative ways to work within your values. You don't lose who you are when things change, you just find new ways to express that. Musashi never sacrificed his integrity or his ideals. Instead, he found ways to apply them in different scenarios. If the environment changed, if the rules of the game shifted, Musashi's core approach didn't change. He adjusted, yes, but always within the framework of his purpose. And that's something to remember when navigating changes in your own life. In our fast-paced, ever-changing world, the pressure to stick to a single plan can be overwhelming. Everyone wants certainty. Everyone wants control. But certainty is an illusion. Change is inevitable. The only thing you can truly control is your response to it. When you allow yourself to be adaptable, you free yourself from the trap of rigid thinking. You stop worrying about making mistakes and start focusing on how to make the most of every situation. Flexibility becomes your strength. Here's where the real magic happens. When you're adaptable, you stop seeing change as a setback. Instead, it becomes a new opportunity to learn, grow, and refine your approach. Every shift is a chance to level up your thinking, your strategy, and your execution. Musashi's ability to read and react to the changes in his environment wasn't just a survival tactic, it was a way to thrive. And this is how you can use change to your advantage. So, how do you become more adaptable? It starts with embracing the unknown. Instead of fearing what's next, get comfortable with uncertainty. Cultivate the mindset that everything is an opportunity. Stay flexible, stay aware, and, above all, stay calm. It's like riding the wave rather than being tossed by it. When you learn to adapt in the moment, you stop reacting to life, you start shaping it. And just like Musashi, you become someone who doesn't just survive the storm, but uses the winds to his advantage. Number 8. value continuous learning and self-improvement. If there's one thing that defines the samurai mindset, it's a relentless pursuit of growth. Musashi, the man who perfected the art of the sword, didn't stop at just mastering combat. He knew that being truly powerful meant constantly evolving, not just in his skills but in his understanding of the world, his mind, and himself. For the samurai, self-improvement wasn't a one-time thing. It was a lifelong commitment. In the modern world, this idea of constant learning is more important than ever. We live in a time where information is everywhere, and yet, many of us get caught up in the illusion of knowing everything. But here's the reality: the moment we think we've mastered something is often the moment we start to stagnate. The samurai were acutely aware of this. They understood that to stay ahead, to remain sharp in battle and in life, they had to keep learning, always. And let's be real for a second. This isn't always easy. It's tempting to think that once you've got a certain level of skill or knowledge, you've made it. We get comfortable. We start coasting. But here's the thing: comfort doesn't breed growth. Comfort breeds complacency. And complacency? It's the silent killer of progress. The samurai knew that if you wanted to stay on top of your game, you had to actively seek out ways to better yourself, every single day. Continuous learning isn't just about picking up new skills or gaining more knowledge. It's about adopting a mindset. It's about looking at every situation, every experience, as an opportunity to learn and grow. The samurai didn't just train when they had to, they trained because they loved the process. Whether it was perfecting their swordsmanship, studying strategy, or meditating to sharpen their focus, they understood that growth was a never-ending journey. They weren't just working towards some distant goal, they were embracing the fact that the journey itself was the point. In our world, it's easy to get distracted by flashy shortcuts or quick fixes. Everyone wants the secret to success, the hack that'll get them ahead without putting in the work. But Musashi, in the samurai way, teaches us that there's no magic formula. The only hack is consistent effort over time. Whether it's improving your craft, mastering new knowledge, or simply getting better at managing your own mind, the key is showing up every day and dedicating yourself to the process of becoming better than you were yesterday. Think about it: every day brings new challenges. There's always room for growth, no matter how successful you've become or how far you've come. Maybe it's your physical fitness, your emotional intelligence, or your ability to navigate difficult situations. Musashi didn't stop after one victory, he kept pushing forward. His self-improvement wasn't just about improving his sword techniques, it was about growing as a human being. And that's the real lesson here. It's not just about being the best at one thing, but about being the best version of yourself in all aspects of life. And it's not about being perfect, either. We're all human. We all have weaknesses. The samurai didn't expect perfection, they expected effort, discipline, and a willingness to learn from every experience. They knew that growth came from embracing failure, from learning from mistakes, and from not letting setbacks derail them. Every stumble was an opportunity to get back up stronger. In modern life, this commitment to continuous self-improvement can be applied to anything. It could be building a business, developing your personal relationships, or improving your health. The important part is understanding that the process never ends. There's always something to work on. There's always a new level to reach. And that's exciting, isn't it? To know that, no matter where you are today, there's always a tomorrow where you can be better, stronger, wiser. The samurai didn't just accept this idea, they thrived on it. So, how do we adopt this mindset? First, embrace curiosity. Ask questions, challenge your assumptions, and never stop seeking answers. Second, approach every situation as a learning opportunity. There's always something to gain, even from setbacks. And finally, make a habit of it. Just like Musashi picked up his sword every day, make self-improvement a daily practice. Not because you have to, but because you want to. You'll find that the more you commit to growing, the more fulfilling life becomes. The path of continuous learning is a long one, and there's no end to it. But it's the only path that leads to real growth. And if you think like a samurai, you'll realize that there's no greater honor than constantly becoming a better version of yourself. Number 9. Be humble and open to feedback. Let's get into humility. Yeah, I know, it's not the most exciting trait, but bear with me, especially when it comes to Musashi, the guy who was practically a living legend. You might think someone like him, with all his skills and wisdom, would have a massive ego. But nope, Musashi knew that real strength wasn't in arrogance, it was in being humble and staying open to feedback. It sounds counterintuitive, right? Here's this warrior who was unmatched in combat, and yet, he never stopped learning. That's the thing about Musashi, he knew that no matter how skilled he became, there was always more to discover. He was humble enough to admit that no matter how many battles he fought, he wasn't above learning something new. Not from the battlefield, not from his peers, not even from his enemies. That's next-level wisdom. Think about it. If you're constantly patting yourself on the back and thinking, "I know everything," you're missing out on the greatest opportunities to grow. The reality is, there's always someone who can teach you something, whether they're ahead of you in some area or even someone who's just starting out. But if you're not humble enough to be open to their perspective, you'll miss the chance to level up. Musashi had this laser-like focus on improvement, and part of that came from his willingness to listen and learn. The guy wasn't too proud to accept a critique, no matter where it came from. Imagine if he had just walked around thinking, "I'm already the best, why should I listen to anyone else?" He'd never have refined his swordsmanship, never have evolved his strategy. He would have plateaued, and when that happens, you start to lose. That's why humility wasn't just some nice-to-have trait for Musashi, it was essential for his growth. Being humble doesn't mean you have to downplay your accomplishments or pretend like you're bad at what you do. No, it means recognizing that no matter how much you've achieved, there's always room to improve. And being open to feedback isn't just about accepting compliments or hearing what you want to hear. It's about genuinely listening to the criticism, the suggestions, the opinions that may not always align with your own thoughts. Musashi understood that true mastery came from constant self-reflection and taking in what others had to offer, whether they agreed with him or not. This mindset of being open to feedback also means understanding your weaknesses. It's easy to get defensive when someone points out areas where you can improve. No one likes to hear about their flaws, right? But the key here is to shift your perspective. Instead of feeling threatened by criticism, see it as an opportunity to better yourself. Musashi didn't just react to his failures or mistakes. He embraced them as a chance to refine his skills. And that took humility. It took the ability to step back, check the ego at the door, and say, "What can I learn from this?" This doesn't mean you should let every single piece of feedback dictate your actions, but it does mean you should give it serious thought. Musashi didn't listen to everyone, but he was always willing to hear different viewpoints. In the same way, you can choose who you take advice from, but you should never close yourself off to learning, whether it's from someone more experienced or someone who's just starting out. Being humble and open to feedback also strengthens relationships. If you're constantly acting like you know everything, people won't feel comfortable giving you honest feedback. But when you show that you're willing to learn and evolve, it builds trust. People respect that. Musashi understood that the key to being a strong warrior wasn't just in his own personal strength, it was in his ability to adapt, to listen, and to grow from those around him. Ultimately, humility isn't about lowering your value or becoming self-deprecating. It's about recognizing that there's always room for growth. It's about keeping your mind open, staying grounded, and never assuming you've reached the top. The world is full of lessons, if you're willing to listen. And like Musashi, if you stay humble and open to feedback, you'll find that every encounter has something to teach you. It's that mindset that'll keep you on the path to mastering whatever you set your sights on. Number 10, honor your commitments and act with integrity. When we talk about honoring commitments and acting with integrity, we're diving into something that feels a bit old school but is, without a doubt, timeless. In a world that's often obsessed with shortcuts, hustle culture, and instant results, holding yourself to a higher standard can feel a little out of place. But here's the thing, if you really want to think like a samurai and unlock the kind of success that Musashi achieved, this concept isn't just important, it's essential. At its core, honoring commitments is about one thing: trust. It's the trust you build with yourself first and foremost. When you say you're going to do something, do it. No excuses. No backing out. There's a deep, almost sacred bond that forms between you and your word. Musashi understood this better than most. For him, to honor a commitment wasn't just about keeping promises to others. It was about aligning every action with a set of principles that would guide him through every challenge. His word was his bond, and he never wavered from it. It wasn't up for debate. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. No matter what. In modern times, we're surrounded by distractions. People break commitments all the time, and it's almost become a norm to adjust or pivot when things get tough. But think about it, if you're constantly backing out of promises, whether to others or to yourself, what does that say about your integrity? What does it say about your ability to follow through? Musashi wouldn't have tolerated that kind of behavior from himself, and neither should you. When you honor your commitments, you're reinforcing your self-discipline. You're saying, I trust myself, and I can be relied upon. That's the kind of person people want to follow. And more importantly, that's the kind of person who moves mountains. But here's where it gets tricky. Integrity isn't just about doing what you said you would do, it's about doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. It's about sticking to your values, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unpopular. Musashi lived his life by a set of codes that govern everything he did. He didn't compromise on what he believed to be true, even in the heat of battle. And it's that same level of unshakable integrity that can serve as your North Star when you face tough choices. You see, integrity is a reflection of your inner strength. It's about being so grounded in your values that nothing can knock you off course. The beauty of acting with integrity is that it creates a ripple effect. When you operate from a place of truth and consistency, you earn respect. But it doesn't stop there. You build something far more valuable, self-respect. When you know you've stayed true to your word and lived by your values, you walk taller. You sleep better. You're at peace with yourself. Now, let's talk about the relationship between integrity and action. It's easy to say the right things. It's easy to post motivational quotes on social media or talk a big game about your principles. But what really counts is whether your actions align with those words. Musashi's integrity wasn't shown through speeches or grand declarations. It was shown through his actions, the way he trained relentlessly, the way he respected his opponents, the way he lived by his code. It wasn't about talking about honor, it was about living it. And that's the challenge for all of us. It's not enough to just say you're committed. You have to show up. Day in, day out. Even when the going gets tough. So, how do you act with integrity in a world that sometimes seems to reward the opposite? It starts with understanding that integrity isn't just about big, life-changing decisions. It's about the little things. It's about being honest when it would be easier to lie. It's about taking responsibility for your mistakes instead of blaming others. It's about following through on those small commitments that seem insignificant but actually matter the most in the long run. If you can build integrity into the small things, the big things will take care of themselves. You'll be a person people can count on, and more importantly, you'll be someone you can count on. Honor your commitments. Act with integrity. And watch as the world around you begins to shift. Musashi knew that living by these principles was the key to mastering both his inner world and the external battles he faced. You can do the same. And that's how you can start thinking like a samurai with Musashi's strategies for modern success. By cultivating discipline, focus, and adaptability, you'll be ready to tackle any challenge and rise above the competition. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to level up their mindset. Remember, the samurai's way isn't just about fighting, it's about mastering every aspect of life with honor and strategy. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strategic, and keep pushing forward towards success.